Rajat and team have given me a lot of talking points today. So again, on behalf of IVCA, a very warm welcome to all our delegates, especially those who've come in from overseas and enriched the event today. I'm going to keep it very short. I have 10 minutes. Basically, for those who do not know IVCA and who are attending for the first time, this is India's premier sort of association of alternative asset managers. And what started about 20 years ago as a very humble, small group has today crossed 350 funds, combined AUM of 260 billion. Almost 45% of those funds are Mumbai-based. The rest are predominantly Delhi, NCR, and Bangalore. And a lot of the younger cities are now bringing membership forth as we see new fund formation. Also, I was fortunate enough to be the chair. Bloom played an active role along with all our executive committee members to sort of further advocacy for the industry with government and the regulators. And for people who are members already, just an amazing sort of enthusiasm, wave of enthusiasm around the new committee that's coming up. I finished my 2-year term next month, but basically there will be a new executive committee heralding, IVCA for the next 2 years. We had a record 59 nominations from member funds for the executive committee. Only 9 of them get voted in, and the rest are nominated. We nominate another 6 members. So this 15-member executive committee is basically what helps Rajat, the president of IVCA, who's invited most of you today, and his team to execute and put together everything that goes through the year. And this is kind of a finale celebration of everything that we put together all through the year. So the quick journey in the last 2 years, policy and advocacy highlights, right? So we've made phenomenal, moves in getting in front of SEBI. The Damodaran-led expert committee took a little bit of a backseat, but we hope after the elections it'll come back to the forefront. The, dialoguing with RBI, talking to the government of India through initiatives like the Amrit Kal dialogues, basically forcing the government to actually have conversations with all the stakeholders of the industry. Industry development. So Rajat and team put together with Amit and with all of his colleagues a program called VC 101. So India has had over 100 micro VCs join the venture capital fold, for example, in the last 5 years. So rather than actually making them make the same mistakes that we went through 13 years ago as a young $20 million VC, we are trying to re-educate educate the venture ecosystem much faster. So 95 unique funds have attended this, this program over the last year or so, and has a NPS over 62, and we're trying to put this on edtech platforms. We actually were the entire industry body and its members were very active participants in the G20 startup sort of track, which India started last year when we had the membership presidency of the G20, and also put together the corporate governance and ethics framework for the very first time globally, as if it can be continued as a global standard across G20. We're also then roping in ecosystem. So we believe that India can be built differently. It's a young ecosystem, 20 years of venture and private equity, where 95% of the people are not older than that in the ecosystem. How do we bring in, academic institutions like ISB and Ashoka University, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, and educate in all directions? So we are actually disseminating this through these colleges, also having ministries involved and getting educated on what we do. Events like Green Future Series, Global Investor Roundtables, have all been very well received by all stakeholders. Actually, next month, about 3 weeks from now, there is the Minister for Commerce and Industry, Mr. Piyush Goyal, wanted a standout event for startups called Startup Mahakumbh, which is happening in Delhi. And almost everybody in the industry is charged up, firing up for both not only participation, but it brought in massive sponsorships to make this happen. And I think this is what's helping build trust and also be seen as the folks driving the early economic engines of growth in the country by bringing in a lot of private capital, both at the venture stage and at the private equity and real estate and alternative assets, which is what the IVCA comprises. And then we've seen trends in the market, and we want to be ahead of them as IVCA. So we've had an IVCA private credit summit all in the last 2 years, an IPO conference, a secondaries conference. So essentially we realized that the market is getting mature, moving to sort of new subdivisions of this asset class, and we are trying to facilitate that through this body. Diversity is, finally up to standards we should be proud of. Of the delegates today, we have 200 women PE and VC professionals registered for this conclave. We have worked very closely with Nupur's organization called WinPE, which is Women in PE Foundation, and this has changed or started pushing at least mentorship to far more younger women, not seeing this as a daunting industry, but coming in droves to the industry. So big round of applause for diversity and seeing the women participation. Internationally, we've become a little bit more clever in terms of not just waiting for international investors to come for one IVCA conclave in the year, but also sort of export our industry to international events like Super Returns, where we did a Maximum India conclave alongside Super Returns. Idea is to try and do this in around 2 or 3 geographies every year, so that the Indian ecosystem can be visible around global events like Super Returns or whatever next happens in Abu Dhabi or New York or London. So 60 LPs, global LPs, and about 100 GPs were present when we did Maximum India Conclave at Singapore. And then advocacy milestones, right? So keep nudging and pushing the government, like private equity being able to sponsor AMCs in this country. That happened in the last year or so. A clarification of excuse clauses so that insurance industry can participate. Progress towards international listing, right? Pushing the government to try to get to direct listing in GIFT City. Ease of banking in GIFT City, which has basically made it a far more viable sort of jurisdiction for all of our industry. Easing overseas investment norms. Extension of like sunset clauses till March 2025. Standard setting forums for the AIFs. Alongside SEBI, it's called the SFA. So all of these have been initiatives that we have pushed actively with the regulators, and I think when policymakers think about where India can be in 2030, where India can be in 2047, how do we get to the 5 trillion mark, how do we get to the 10 trillion mark, they see this industry as the one shaping that acceleration, and we should all be proud and thankful that we've managed to congregate all our strength under the IVCA umbrella, which is the dominant sort of industry body today. Once again, thanks and welcome to a staggering 850 registered delegates for this edition. It's a record, and we have 730 delegates, 120 speakers, and a special shout out to all our government public stakeholders and our knowledge partners. They are the ones who make it a little easy as we go about our full-time jobs, helping the IVCA team to execute on a day-to-day basis. And over the next 2 days, next 36 hours, please participate as much as you can. There's a plethora of great stakeholders coming to the event, and a lot of government folks right from the top, from SEBI, GIFT City, SIDBI, are all going to be here to address you. Thank you once again and welcome.